Glad you could take some time out today to join me in the DG workshop. So now that we've seen a bunch of the exciting bits, let's talk about what actually needs to get done. So first, we always have to shape the outside, otherwise we're not quite sure where we're setting up to core with. And then we have to position our coring jig, which I'll show you how to do. And then we core the bowl. And then the resulting core that comes out, we need to decide if we're going to core that again or just turn the blank. Okay, let's throw a faceplate on this and get this mounted up and get this roughed out so it looks something like a bowl on the outside. The goal here is we're going to want to put a tenon on it, and we're going to actually put not a small tenon on it, we're going to put a large tenon on so we've got a good grip. This is a hunk of green wood and we don't want this breaking off while we're coring it. And what you don't see going on here is I'm stopping every once in a while and eyeballing this against the next largest up one-way coring cutter to see that I have basically the same shape that it would cut out. So mount up a Stronghold Chuck, and it's got the 100mm jaws on so that we have that excellent grip. And I'm going to tighten the set screws down because this is a big hunk of wood and I don't want it coming off when I stop the lathe and it decides to unwind itself. So to position the cutter, need to make some measurements here. So I'm holding the arm inverted at this point and getting the arc kind of representing where the bowl is. I've made a mark which you can see the red line pointing at, and so I'm lining up the arm with that mark. And I'm looking at where the cutter is, that's the green spot, and making sure I get the depth, not too deep, not too shallow. And then I'm measuring between the back side of the cutting arm and the front of the bowl to get that depth. That was the yellow line. So now I've got my one-way coring jig just loosely positioned on the bedways. And I'm taking that measurement that we just got, and I'm adjusting this to make sure that the cutter, from the inside edge of the cutter to the bowl front, is the same measurement we just made. And that gets me the right distance, so I'm not going to go too deep. So then I'm now going to slide the jig left and right, trying to maintain that same distance, such that where the cutter's going to is just going to be on the inside of that line. Okay, and I'm wiggling it back and forth here, so it's not completely tight at this point. I can move it with my fingers, being careful not to move it front to back. And eyeballing it, kind of checking here, looking to make sure that the arc's going to be right and traveling where I'm expecting, and then snugging things up. And just going back and still making sure I've got that right spacing that we recorded earlier. Yeah, and now that it's snug, we're ready to go. So now that we've got everything aligned, we can load our cutting cartridge. I'm using a Hunter Korpro carbide cutter here today, and I keep it out while I do all those earlier adjustments. You don't want to wrap it against the lathe while you're putting down the coring tool or do anything like that. The cutter is quite expensive, and you want to make sure it's preserved. So here I'm just tightening it in, and there it is, ready to go. So now that the cutter's in, just double checking its positioning, making sure it's cutting where I thought it was going to be cutting. And then moving the supporting arm in underneath. You always need to use the supporting arm and not get extended too far out over it. If you get extended too far over it, you'll get vibration. So the support arm should come up and just sit underneath of it, just kind of push up a little bit. You should feel it rubbing as you move the cutter across it. And I'm aligning this here, making sure the white supporting post doesn't hit the front of the bowl. I've done that a number of times where you're looking at the arm and then you fire it up and then the white supporting post is actually rubbing. So getting it close, but not so close that it's hitting. And just double checking everything here now. Now I'm adding on the arm, the handle, so that got a little bit of leverage. Don't need a lot of leverage while cutting here. Bring the lathe up to a couple hundred RPM. Now I realized after the fact I had the lathe on the center pulley. Later on I moved it down to the lowest pulley for maximum torque. And the Hunter Korpro cartridge cuts pretty aggressively here, so I'm not applying much pressure at all. The shavings it creates as opposed to the one-way cutter are long and stringy, as opposed to the one-way cutter tends to produce much smaller chips. I'm just working slowly here with even pressure. I'm backing out when I've got excess chips, and I want to take a look how far I'm extended over, so I'm watching that couple inches out now over the end of the post. It's still clearing shavings quite nicely, so I'm just using continuous firm pressure. I'm not pushing hard. If you push hard with the carbide cutter, it will just really aggressively cut, and you don't want that. You just want to take off a continuous nice stream of chips. Watching that the chips are always clearing when and then I back it out. And so here at this point, I've determined that we've probably got too much extension now over. We're starting to get a little vibration. So backing it out here, and I'm going to unloosen the support for the supporting arm. Move that around. And when I'm positioning it here, I'm pushing it all the way in until I find the back of the cut. Then I'm just backing it off a little bit, and I want it to freely float in there. So I'm spinning, find a sample spot, then give it a spin. Yeah, just make sure it moves back and forth. And then I will tighten that down, and then I will check to see that it's still spinning freely and moving freely. Advance the cutting arm, make sure it's got support, it's riding correctly on top of it. Should feel firmness underneath it, and support as it's going in. Now once you get the arm in, there's a tendency that you'll get whatever chips in there piling up on the top of that, and you don't want any of those because they'll interfere with the arm going forward and making the cut. Nice stream of chips coming out here, even pressure. Sounds like it's cutting well. Hey, make sure you hang around at the end for a bonus look at one-way cutter versus the Hunter Korpro Cutter. Just determining how far I am out. Okay, adjust the post here again. Chip control is important because if you get chips down inside of where the posts go, your alignment can go off. So that's why I'm getting these chips out of the way and blowing it off before I'm doing any moving around. Same process as last time. Push it all the way in, find the back end, come back off a little bit, and then make sure that is not binding at all. Taking note of where fully in is, so I can kind of watch for as I make progress and know how far I'm extended off over the arm at the end. Since you're deeper back in here, it's harder for the chips to clear, and it's more important that you watch this carefully. You don't want to get a jam, and pull it back out to clear the chips. There you can see I went back in, and it was not cutting right away. That's because chips were in front of the cutter. So Go back in a couple times and out to clear the chips, and then you're off cutting again. Slow, even pressure here. Went in there and it wasn't cutting because there was chips sitting in front of the cutter preventing the arm from getting all the way in. So pull back out, take those chips with it, and then go back in to cut again. So we're all the way around when the jig's arm is parallel to the face. Now the bowl will break off before you're all the way around. So we're getting fairly close here. And we're quite far around, so the chips aren't really clearing. They're not coming all the way around the corner, so I'm watching for that. When I think I've got enough, I'm pulling the arm back out so they clear off. One last time, bringing the supporting arm in a little closer. Again, this time making sure that the white supporting arm's not hitting the edge of the bowl, and the extending fingers are just moving freely inside that slot. We're pretty close. This will break off here any moment. Yeah, getting very close here. Even pressure. Got a few chips stuck at the front there that are just interfering with the tool moving forward. And there we go. Doing a bit of a eyeball and finger test here to see if the inside had the same shape as the outside. Thought maybe it was a little thick as it went around the corner to the bottom. So got the feeling gauges out and did a quick check, and yeah, it's getting a little thick right there. So I'll just pull the tool rust out and make a few passes with the bowl gouge to remove that thickness there. To avoid cracks, you generally want to have the bottom of the bowl a little bit thinner than the top so that it's not leveraging and tearing the top apart. So when you're coring, you have a choice to make. Are you going to core from the smallest bowl first to the largest bowl, or are you going to start with the largest? I always choose to go after the largest first because that's the one I'm most interested in, and that still means that I have to turn around and put a foot on the resulting core that came out so I can turn it again. So in this case, I put a foot on this little bowl, and I just decided to switch it around and use the classic method of hollowing it out as opposed to going the other way. Some people are really good at coring from smallest to largest. I had one failure where I got my calculations wrong, and I punched through too deep, and so when I cored out the larger bowl, it was too thin. So I always work from largest bowl to smallest bowl now, and take the time to put a foot on it, and for the smallest bowl, often just hollow it out myself. Hey, reminder, immediately after this, we're taking a look at the Hunter Korpro Cartridge versus the Oneway Cutter. So here's a quick look at our two cord bowls. I think they came out pretty nice and saved all those extra wood chips from hitting the floor. Hey, thanks for joining me today, and if you haven't already done so, like and subscribe. Hey, thanks for hanging around to take a look at the two cutters. So on the left, we have the Oneway non-carbide cutter, and on the right, we have the Hunter Korpro carbide cutter. You can see that I've sharpened the Oneway, filed the top there a little bit. You can also touch up the point if just using a hone, but it's important to get those top shoulders sharp. On the Hunter Korpro, I've never actually sharpened that. It is carbide, and when it gets dull, you just rotate it to the other stop, so you have two sides to use it, and I have never rotated it yet, and cored several bowls. Some people say that the Korpro is a little too aggressive, and that the angle doesn't follow well when you're using with the biggest cutters. I haven't experienced that yet. I do use the Oneway cutter, but on a small bowl that we did today, the Korpro is my go-to cutter.